Broadcasting live from Mount Karelia on the plain of Regatha, this is Tap Tap Concede. And welcome, everybody, to Tap Tap Concede. I'm Graham, back again. Joining me is Kathleen, also back again.
Whoop, whoop.
And Paul, who was here last week.
Whoop, whoop.
And Cam, who was here last week.
Whoop, I guess.
You only get one whoop from Cam.
Only one whoop.
Cam's a spoil whoop.
And remember, when you're doing Tap Tap Concede, don't concede first.
Yeah,
You can't tap
can't-
after you concede.
You can't
tap?
respond?
No,
No.
you can't respond to a concession.
And you can't tap, concede, tap. That doesn't work either.
No.
It's tap, concede
So-
is the only way it works.
I got aggro GG'd on Magic Online the other day.
Really?
I had someone do
How
the...
does somebody aggro GG?
Well, so he made a misplay, which was... And this is a very silly misplay. Let me just... Before we get to our crack-a-pack and the rest of the episode, let me tell you about my hilarious salty opponent on Magic Online the other day. Because this also has a lesson with it. I had a Daxos of Meletis with a Heliod's Emissary bestowed upon him.
That seems very good for you.
It is. So this is a very interesting thing about the rules of bestow, which is there are some enchantments like Dragon Mantle that say that they're an aura, and they say this creature gains this ability. In this case, Heliod's Emissary says whenever Heliod's Emissary or the enchanted creature attacks, do this thing. So I attacked with Daxos, and the Heliod's Emissary thing went on the stack, and I targeted his opponent's creature, or my opponent's creature, and he used God's Willing to give his creature protection. Now, Daxos is blue and white, so he had to pick blue or white. He picked blue.
Right.
Daxos is still also white.
Yes, but that's fine, right? Daxos is blue and he is white, so if he wanted to give his creature protection from Daxos, either would work.
Right.
But Heliod's Emissary does not grant an ability to Daxos. The ability is an ability
Right.
of the aura, which is white.
So it's an intrinsic ability of Heliod's Emissary.
Yes. So if you want to give something protection from that, you have to give it protection from white.
Right.
Now, why, when Daxos is blue and is white, and the aura is white, he did not choose to give his creature protection from white is beyond me. Because that's what he should have done.
I think the answer is he was like, it doesn't matter. Blue is first in the list alphabetically.
I guess maybe he took some while to think about it. So then he picked white, or he picked blue. So his creature got protection from blue, and then this ability resolved because this is a white ability.
Yeah.
And then his creature tapped, and he said in the chat, he's like, "Oh, I thought the guy got it," and I was like, "No, it's this." And as it turns out, it was a bad attack on my part because Daxos got through. He hit nothing. He hit a land. I didn't gain life, and so the guy was like, "Oh, I thought it did that." And I'm like, "No, because it's an ability of this." He's like, "Oh, well, still GG then, though." And I'm like, "Okay." Like, you don't know what else I have in my hand, but I guess. No, I was dead on board, and I did immediately lose that game. But they're like, "Oh, well, GG then." Then in game 2, he casts Sip of Hemlock on my biggest, scariest guy.
As you do.
As you should. And I cast God's Willing to give it protection from black and save it. And he responds in chat, "Of course. So lucky."
What, that you might have a white card in your blue and white deck? My God. What? No! How does that happen?
So when we go to game 3, because I win that game, and I use a removal spell on his creature, and he has a God's Willing.
Was he playing a white and black deck?
Well, he had white in there, and then
Where did that come from?
yeah, then I said in chat, I was like, "Oh, so lucky of you," in quotation marks.
Well, you see, Graham, when he does it, it's skill.
Skill, yeah.
Deck building and holding
And
on.
then he flipped out at you?
No, he didn't actually say. He did not respond to that because
Oh.
I think he realized I was making fun of him. And he won the game, and I was out of the draft at that point. So sadly, it doesn't have sadly the story doesn't have a good ending. But the point is,
Well, that's a good ending for him.
pro tips: if you want to give something protection from a multicolor creature, either color will work. But if you want to give something protection from the ability of a bestow creature like Helia's Emissary, it is only it is that that is a white ability. So
Yeah, I mean, and there are enchantments that say enchanting creature gains and then quotation marks whatever something.
Yes. In which case that's an ability of the creature now.
Right, but in this case, not so much.
Yeah. This comes up with Polis Crusher. They talked about this in the Limited Resources Rules 1, which is Polis Crusher has protection from enchantments, which means any enchantments, including enchantment creatures like Helia's Emissary, Polis Crusher has protection from. But if you have a normal creature with a Helia's Emissary bestowed upon it, that does not make that creature an enchantment creature, and Polis Crusher is not immune to it. So,
but it would be immune to the effect from the Helia's Emissary.
It would, yes. So it can't be tapped by Helia's Emissary, but the creature still could do damage to it.
Fascinating.
Anyway, let's move on to our Crack-a-Pack for today. This is
Hooray!
This is the third in our series from Narkuru, who sent us these the draft set, not for an entire draft, but one of each set of Kamigawa, and we've done Champions and Betrayers, so now we are looking at Saviors of Kamigawa.
Ooh.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what's in here, but I don't actually know. Is this the one with top, or have we already done that one?
I think we've already done that one. It doesn't matter. It'll be fun.
I know we've already done the one with GTA.
Yeah, that was last time. We didn't get a GTAG. So, all right, our first one, Cowed by Wisdom. It is a creature enchantment for a single white.
Is it a cow?
No, it's a giant demon bowing to a priest. Cowed by Wisdom. Enchanted creature can't attack or block unless its controller pays one colorless for each card in your hand.
What's the collector's number on that so Paul can...
Wait, is it cow?
COWED.
COWED, sorry.
It is cow. Oh,
yes, cowed. Oh, I thought you meant, is there a cow on the card?
There we go.
Cowed by Wisdom. There you are. So that's interesting. It's sort of like a... I'm trying to think of what the card was in... it's sort of like a... What are those called? The ghostly prison...
propaganda effect?
Right. It's like a propaganda effect, but just for the one creature, and depending on how many cards are in your hand.
Right. It's like some elements of a pacifism with propaganda effect.
It seems...
For a single blue, it seems okay.
Single white.
Single white.
I think it's okay, but not... I don't know if I'd run this.
Yeah, it could get very dangerous. Like, you could get into a situation where he's got some ridiculously powerful creature. You've got it cowed by Wisdom, but then you're stuck and can't cast anything because
you don't want to drop land
because you have to keep your hand
you're like
big.
holding land back and stuff. And like if you draw this in like late game, what a useless goddamn card, because you might only have one other card in your hand. You can easily pay that.
If you're in top deck mode and see this,
you're like, oh no.
I'd much prefer Burden of Guilt from Dark Ascension. That was a single white for a creature enchantment that you, as the enchantments controller, could pay. I think it was actually one colorless. It may have been one white, but I think it might have been one colorless to tap the creature. It is one colorless, yeah. So if you're looking for a single white mana tap a guy down, I'd much prefer Burden of Guilt.
This seems like a good addition to the backdraft cube.
Yes. Which
we don't actually have a deck list for, but we're thinking about it.
We are developing the backdraft cube now. Yeah,
this is can't attack or block, not tap down.
That's true. So Burden of Guilt's even better.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Aki Drillmaster, because all the goblins in Kamigawa were the Akis. So it's a 2/2 for 2 and a red. Goblin Shaman. Tap it. Target creature gains haste until end of turn.
Sure.
Because he's a drill master. Get on it. Look at him zapping the other goblin in the butt.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it seems fine.
I mean,
seems fine, except the problem is that you want to be, that's like, I bring out a goblin, give him haste, but if you've got like a 2/2 goblin sitting around, you kind of want to be attacking with that 2/2 goblin.
Yeah, but
unless you're resolving like a 5/5 dragon.
Yeah, in that case, it's awesome to get this thing.
It's weird, but he's one of the weird goblins that doesn't actually work very well in the goblin deck.
Yeah, but I think he'd be a good addition to like a red deck.
Well, the upside of this is like in limited, presumably, because I doubt that this guy was constructed playable at the time. In limited, you'd be looking at it. You play this guy on 3, and then your 4-drop has haste.
Right.
Which would be pretty cool. Hopefully. Next, Oppressive Will, 2 and a blue for an instant. counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each card in your hand. So apparently we're looking at a cycle here with Cowed by Wisdom, and this is Oppressive Will. So it's a counter spell unless they pay 1 for each card that you have.
Again, that is bad
Yeah, that seems.
because
That can also get right in the backdraft cube, I think.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, like okay, counter target spell unless the controller plays 1 for each card in your hand. So that means if you have one card in your hand,
If they're tapped out, that's fine.
yeah, but who wants to wait till they're tapped out to use a counter spell?
Well, yes, generally. I mean, you look at like
It's
people,
also-
Like, and you're not, but if you're
People
not
are-
playing against blue,
people are running Stymied Hopes in Theros right now.
I mean, it also costs the same as a Dissipate, right? Like, it's not a... It's
Yeah.
like, if it was a 1-mana counter, then that would be interesting.
mm-hmm.
But it's still a 3-mana counter. Like, it's still not a very... Like, even if it was...
I know you have more experience than any of
2
us with
and
counter
1.
spells, Cam.
Well, ugh.
Yeah.
I would run this in limited.
you
I mean,
wouldn't
if
be
the-
happy about it.
No, I wouldn't be terribly happy about it. God, I want these things to cantrip.
I mean, in limited,
Yeah, point.
it all... Like, in limited, it all depends, right? Like, if it's a set that just doesn't have a lot of counters, then what you got is what you got.
That's true, but still, like you draw this late in the game, and it may as well not even be a card,
Yeah.
right? If
like,
you can get it out early and they can't pay for it, that's fine.
like
or-
if this is a limited environment where I'm worried about Kokusho, right?
Yeah.
Like this is what I would run, but
But
I don't want to have to hold up 3 or 4 cards in my hand.
Yeah, and it's good. So now not only are you holding up the land to play the counter, but you're also holding up cards in your hand so that to make the counter effective.
Like
I
if
don't
this
think
is
you.
an environment with flash creatures or
Yeah,
a lot of decent instant effects.
I don't think you wait for their bomb to play this. I think you whip it out
As soon as
Yeah.
you can.
as soon as you can to counter whatever they can and get them for a tempo hit.
Probably their 3-drop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
free
Yeah.
which
drop.
is
Or-
fine.
Well, effects like if you've got this and one other card in your hand, then that's fine on turn 6 if you're countering a bomb, right?
But yeah,
I
you
just-
did, this is definitely not something that you want to like hold back as your plan for
Oh God,
They're
no.
big-
For
thing.
for this is a significantly worse mana league
yeah.
in every measurable way.
Next up, a green creature, Elder Pine of Jukai. It is 2 and a green for a 2/1 spirit. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And it has Soul Shift 2. And Soul Shift is when this creature dies, you may return a target spirit card with converted mana cost, in this case 2 or less, from your graveyard to your hand. So, because Soul Shift was like when spirits die, you get other spirits back to your hand.
Yeah.
And the converted mana cost was the Soul Shift number.
I remember I was listening to Mark Rosewater's podcast, and he was talking about how Kamigawa was basically the epitome of what they call parasitic mechanics, which are mechanics that only work within the set.
Yeah.
So like before Kamigawa, there were maybe like 3 or 4 spirit cards ever printed.
Right.
And so this guy would be useless. And there were no arcane spells printed.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Right.
And there have been no arcane spells printed since Kamigawa. So in any kind of, in limited, maybe you could do something with it.
Yeah, you draft spirits very highly and play this guy, and he ramps you.
And you
A
know,
lot.
if you're trying to do like the splice into arcane thing, he's actually probably pretty good. But in any kind of larger format, that he's just nothing.
If I could guarantee that no other spirit or arcane spells were going to go into my backdraft cube, I would put this guy in here.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. So, what's your ideal play with this? Do you land this on turn 3 and then not attack with it? You can't block with him because you want to get some mileage off his ability, or do you?
I feel
even?
like the Soul Shift is not. I mean,
Because that, like, you play him on turn 3, and then you start like doing splice into arcane stuff,
and
right?
getting the land
and
out of your
getting
deck.
and you get all sorts of extra little bonuses,
Right. But
And then you throw him under the bus.
and then you throw him under your bus and get
but
a
this
better
guy
soul.
doesn't ramp you at all. He might draw you a couple of cards.
Yeah, he just
Right,
gets
yeah,
land out
but-
of your deck. It doesn't get it onto the battlefield any faster.
Yeah, and also,
I think.
I don't know.
you're-
I feel like you
Although-
could goozle yourself pretty
he's-
hard
he's-
if you
Yeah.
play an arcane spell and then you see your bomb go onto the bottom of your library,
Yeah.
and
that
you get
would be a
forest.
goozle.
However, this would be good for getting more cards in your hand for the other cards we've been looking at. for
That's true.
oppressive
If I'm
will.
playing this guy just to like make oppressive will suck marginally less, I'm
Oh.
feeling so
But I mean, he's
bad.
also he is filtering land out of your deck, though, right? Like he's
like
effectively sort of half
Very
a card
slowly
Yeah.
filtering land out of your deck.
is that
or,
something you really want?
or blowing your next 3 draws
I would
of
almost
pure gas and putting them on the bottom of your library.
I would prefer that the other cards go in the graveyard
Yeah.
because of the soul shift mechanic. Because our next card is the Kami of Empty Graves, which is a sweet name, by the way, and it's a 4/1 for 3 and a black. So he's going to die, right? He'll trade up in combat, but he's going to die, and he has soul shift 3, right? So this guy can actually get back much more spirits to your hand. He can actually get back the Elder Pine of Jukai.
Right.
Jukai, right? So, like he's a guy that, like the Kami of Empty Graves, he's a 4/1 for 4, which is not amazing. If the board is clear, you can attack with him, which is nice. But typically, I feel like you're gonna want to trade him up to something with 4 toughness, and then get something else back. So
Right.
I would much prefer that the Elder Pine's ability put the stuff in your graveyard, like what's the Grizzly Salvage from
Yeah.
Return to
Ooh,
Ravnica?
what if the Elder Pines, if you can put any spirit cards into your graveyard, put everything else on the bottom of your library in the order you may choose. And then he's got Soul Shift 2. Would you play him then?
That's super good.
That could be interesting. Yeah.
And speaking of chaining with their soul shift, our next card is the Torii Watchword. It is a 3/3 for 4 and a white. And it is also a spirit. And it has vigilance and soul shift 4.
So the Soul Shift
So-
is always for 1 less.
No, it's equal to, or is it
Well,
4?
no, so
4
far
or
all
less.
their soul shifts are
It's
one
just-
less than their CMC.
Yeah, what I mean. Oh yeah, you're right.
So they get you get something that's worth 1 less, or has
So-
Right, I see what you mean.
the CMC is 1 less than what
There's
you.
an interesting aspect.
So they don't trade. They don't replace themselves quite.
No.
Right, but there's an interesting aspect with the soul shift. Almost, it's got kind of the what do you call them? Those goblin explodey guys, whatever those guys are, goblin arsonist. It's got a little bit of that kind of aspect to it. Like if you've got some nasty spirit bomb sitting in your graveyard,
Right.
you can start attacking in with these soul shift guys, and he doesn't want to kill it. Like he doesn't want to block it.
Right.
Because as soon as the soul shift guy comes out or dies, then you're going to be able to bring your really good spirit back. And so
Right.
you might be able to gain a few points of damage that way.
And if you ignore the soul shift, this is 3/3 vigilance for 5, which is not amazing, but in the limited format of the day was probably fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think you'd probably play that now. You wouldn't be thrilled with it, but you'd probably play it now. And the Soul Shift 4, I think,
He
is,
looks like he
is
should have...
by the time you get this guy down on turn 5, with a Soul Shift of 4, you're probably going to have a target.
And considering
Right.
how many spirits we have seen in this pack, you will certainly have a target.
Yeah.
He seems like he
and
should
the
have
vigilance
flying.
seems okay because he can attack and then block, so that's more opportunities for him to buy it in combat.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Next up, we
Still.
have Spiritual Visit, which I think I have in my Commander Orzhov Tokens deck, which is it's instant arcane for 1 white, and put a 1/1 colorless spirit token into play, and you can splice onto arcane for 1 white.
Have you ever
1/1
spliced onto Arcane?
No, because I don't think I have any other arcane spells in that deck. It's not a good deck. It's
This
just
is
a funny
actually-
deck. Interesting point. Unlike basically every other spirit from the history of Magic, certainly the most recent years, this is a 1/1 colorless spirit, not a white spirit, and it does not have flying.
So compare this to what was it in Gate Crash, the Orzhov card that burned something out of a graveyard and gave you a 1/1 flying black and white spirit.
Why don't I remember the name of that? Because I also have that.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm usually so good with card names. I'm usually the one listening to Limited Resources and yelling at Marshall for not getting the card names. Also, hi, Marshall. Beck and Apparition.
Yeah, Beck and
Yeah.
Apparition.
There we go.
Okay.
Got there.
So again, like if you have a lot of arcane spells, like 3 or 4 arcane spells, then
This is interesting.
getting some additional mileage out of this card.
Now,
right?
okay, but the
This is
problem
actually
being,
one of the few spliced into arcane spells that is itself an arcane spell, which is kind of interesting.
And it's the same cost. Like I could see this just sitting in your hand, casting spells for just one white more, and just getting a guy. That seems fine.
It seems like a good bonus. And the advantage this has over Beckon Apparition is you don't have to have anything in your bin to get it.
That's true.
Which is the real drawback of those things. You're like, I get a free creature. It's like, well, you still need to kill one of your existing creatures.
But
one of theirs.
But the flying on the spirits are really what makes spirits useful.
Yeah.
At least in the current metagame, right? Like a 1/1 colorless dude sitting on the ground is so anywhere, even like mid game, is basically useless.
Yeah. Okay, so would you pay 1 mana for a 1/1?
Absolutely not.
Would you put Mon's Goblin Raiders into your deck?
Not into a limited deck. No.
No,
Yeah.
a 1/1 for 1 is not a good idea unless it has some sort of ability.
But because it's an arcane spell, it
Right.
has a lot of synergy with stuff.
So, I mean, does this go into the same deck with Cowed by Wisdom or Oppressive Will? Probably, yeah.
Well,
Probably,
those
right?
aren't
Because you're keeping that
arcane-
one
As
in
like-
your hand.
Interesting, yeah.
As 22nd and 23rd cards?
That's an interesting dynamic with those ones, with the Splice and Arcane things. They're spells that you can cast while still keeping them in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another card here actually that involves keeping stuff in your hand. Cam, you love Storm.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So what would you want? Like, so this is a sorcery, and it's add red to your mana pool for each card in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
What should that cost to be
What's the name?
to be worthwhile? It's called Inner Fire.
It couldn't possibly be more than 2 red.
Yeah, I think 2 red is basically what I would...
It is 3 in a red.
Whoa!
So even if you have a full hand, you're still only getting a Pyromancer's pyretic ritual.
No, this is
You're
terrible.
getting 3 extra. Now you're getting 3 red, whereas this only costs you 3 in a red. But this seems pretty bad.
That's awful.
Yeah.
By the time you can cast this, you might be
Yeah.
paying 4 for 2 mana,
Yeah.
right? Like there are
it's not
a
even-
lot of situations where you are going to be putting yourself
Like
into the hole by playing this.
Yeah, you're playing a red deck, so ideally you want to be playing stuff out early and often, and then...
Yeah, so it's like, is the main purpose of this actually mana fixing as opposed to acceleration?
I don't
But it's
know.
like the opposite of fixing, because you might be playing a multiple color deck and then have to put like 2 blue and 2 red into this and getting 4 red out. And what costs 4 red? What costs 4 black? You get Phyrexian Obliterator for 4, like,
I guess
quad with 1
maybe
color,
fire,
right?
Maybe if you want to fire breathe something, I don't know.
I don't.
It's
I
sorcery
can,
though.
There's
so-
definitely some corner cases where this might be okay, but it just seems so bad.
Yeah. All right, next up we have a Moonfolk.
Ooh.
It's the Oboro Breeze Caller. It is a 1/1 for 1 and a blue. It's a 1/1 flying for 1 and a blue. Moonfolk Wizard. For 2 and return a land you control to its owner's hand, untap target land.
Well, I like Rebecca Gway.
I like Rebecca Gway too, but this seems like not a very good card at all.
So you tap 2 and return a land to your hand, and untap 1 land.
I think we ran into this before. Are there some sort of amazing lands in this block that we didn't know about?
Unless you have a land that taps for 3.
I could see this
Like-
going into. Do you have?
Go into Blue Devotion with Nykthos?
I was saying, are you running Tolarian Academy in your Sharoon deck?
no.
No.
I don't have $400 or however much Tolarian Academy costs.
Okay, well maybe if you had some sort of busted Highlander deck
Yeah.
and you just really wanted to untap Tolarian Academy.
Okay, I love the flavor text here. I feel their unnatural influence in the weary, weeping land. Do they care nothing for the creatures who walk below their clouds? 8.5 tails, which is 9 tails. Slightly deformed sister, I think.
8.5 tails is a.
What are the fox people?
I think it's just a fox. I don't know what they're actually called in the lore, but it's a card. It's in the Magic Online Cube sometimes. It's a 2/2. I think it's a 2/2 for 2, and it does something with destroying enchantments.
Look up 8.5 tails.
Yeah.
After this.
Well, no, I'll read the next card while Paul's doing that.
So 2 for a 1/1 flyer.
But, like, that's not terrible.
All right, fine.
That's-
It's not good, but
The thing is, though, we haven't seen any other flying creatures. If flying creatures are that rare in this block, I'll take it. Because it's got good evasion.
Right. Sorry, 8.5 tails. 2/2 for white. For 1 and a white, target permanent you control gains protection from white until end of turn, and for what colorless, target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. So
That
for
seems fun.
So for 3 mana, you can give any permanent you control protection from whatever you want. Because it's like, I cast Fireball on that guy, and you're like, all right, well, this guy gets protection from white. Also, your Fireball is white now.
So is this like Mother of Runes? There, I fixed it.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, I like that's neat. From if anybody has played Okami for I guess
Well, PlayStation or
Wii, then the boss that you fight about 10 times in the game
or PS2, I suppose.
is the fox with 9 tails. Like that's the
Right.
fox
Okay.
with 9 tails. I don't know why this is 8.5 tails, but the fox with 9 tails is a very important piece in Chinese lore. It's kind of interesting.
Neat.
All right,
That was also in the
Chinese or Japanese lore, or both?
possibly both.
Well,
I'm trying to think which Okami
Well, because
is.
Okami
Okami's
is Japanese.
Japanese.
Okami would be
Yeah.
Japanese, so this must be
Because this is Japanese as well. Kamigawa is all very
Oh, right,
Japanese.
of course. But anyway.
Next one's very interesting. Promised Kanushi. It is a 1/1 for a single green. With its only ability is Soul Shift 7.
Whoa.
Ooh,
Interesting.
that is interesting.
The rulings on Gatherer I can see from here is yes, Soul Shift 7. Promise Kanushi can return any spirit with converted mana cost 7 or less. However, Promise Kanushi is a human druid, not a spirit.
That sounds fucking great.
So once again,
Yeah.
you bring this guy out and he just starts attacking and nobody ever blocks him.
Yeah.
As long as you have something scary in your graveyard.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
this card seems incredibly good.
I mean,
Were there mulch effects in Kamigawa?
I don't actually think it is incredibly good. I think it's
Yeah.
if you have a target for it, it can be really, really cool. Otherwise, it's a 1/1 for 1. But
Yeah.
Soul Shift 7 seems pretty dang powerful.
I would like this seems like a great thing to draw late in the game
Yeah.
because you
Well,
just
it seems like an okay thing to draw late in
No,
the
you
game.
just-
It's a
you just-
1/1 for 1 that you don't, when you top deck it, you aren't,
Because
you
late
know
in the
what, I
game-
immediately throw it in front of something else and get something I want back.
Like, I mean, I guess the question is, what are the 7-drop spirits? But
Well, I mean, I think just Soul Shift 7 just covers everything that you could, like. I'd be happy to get well, I guess all the other spirits in here have been kind of bad, but like
well,
I'm sure there's
some
something I'd be
there's some
happy
rare
to get.
ones. Yeah.
Right, I forgot about the channel mechanic. So here is a way to get things in your graveyard. Check this card out.
Oh,
We're
perfect.
learning about all the synergies right here. This is the Shinen of Fear's Chill.
Wow.
It is a spirit for 4 and a black. It is a 3/2, and it cannot block.
Oh.
But you can channel it, meaning from your hand you can pay 1 and a black and discard it, and target creature cannot block this turn. So you get This seems bad, by the way.
yeah, that seems like,
But that's a way to get a card to get there. The channel tells us there are ways for you to get cards in your graveyard,
Right.
At your own
And this
at
guy
your own pace.
And this guy is worth 5, so you could bring this guy back with
Yeah,
the
but
other
why would I
thing.
want this guy?
You
I don't know
you
why
wouldn't.
you'd
This
want-
this
but-
actually has the lowest community rating on Gatherer of any card we've looked at tonight.
It has
whoa,
half a star.
yeah.
Yeah, but
So channel is
I'm just pleased that we
Yeah,
we are now discovering the synergies that now that channel exists. That seems a little bit better.
it's interesting to compare channel to evoke.
Yeah.
Because
Like-
evoke effectively does the same thing, but evoke it does hit the battlefield, but then it leaves.
Well, yeah.
Whereas channel it just goes straight from your hand to the graveyard.
In Lorwyn Block, we saw this card with Evoke where it terrored when it ETB'd.
That seems good.
Oh yeah,
Seems better.
isn't Shriekmaw also a 3/2 for
Yeah.
5?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
way better.
Yeah.
And Shriekmaw can block.
And it flew, didn't it?
No,
Oh, okay. Darn.
no, Shriekmaw's good though.
All right.
All right, Soratami Cloud Chariot. That sounds cool. It is a 5-drop artifact, and it has 2 abilities. One is for 2 colorless, target creature you control gains flying until end of turn.
Makes sense.
And the other is for 2 colorless, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and by target creature you control this turn.
I feel like this
Okay,
wants to
Bel-
be at equipment, but they just hadn't figured out equipment yet.
No, they had. This is the block where they, or not this block. They had plenty of equipment in this block. But
Oh,
this
really?
is, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is-
like the GT.
Oh, right, of course.
Maybe they hadn't figured out equipment then. That sounds way too good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, equipment started in Mirrodin block, which was
All right.
before this.
Yeah.
So.
But okay, like, all right. 2, target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. Fine, good. Could be very helpful late game.
Yeah.
You know. 2, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to. Yes, and dealt by. No. Creature you control.
Fog
So
my,
I can
fog my
I
one
can
guy.
fog one dude.
One guy, yeah.
That's super irritating.
And it costs 5 to bring out too.
I think ignore the second ability.
Yeah.
5 drop artifact that you can pay 2 repeatedly to give a creature you control flying until end of turn. That seems pretty okay.
Well, next turn
Yeah.
I can give 2
Really?
creatures flying.
Probably
Yeah.
three.
if you play this on 5, you can probably get 3 creatures flying. I think being able to jump guys repeatedly without spending an entire
Yeah.
card is pretty good.
Yeah,
I guess.
like Zephyr Charge.
Zephyr Charge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not.
Zephyr Charge is a lot cheaper. Zephyr Charge
Yeah.
was in M14. It's 1 and a blue enchantment that does the same thing for 1 and a blue.
I would not run this card immediately, but I would leave it in my sideboard. But if I played 2 grindy games against an opponent, I might bring this in for the third game.
Yeah, I mean, like Zephyr Charge was a card that no one ever wanted to run in M14, but occasionally you found a matchup where, yeah, just jumping all my guys over you actually works out pretty okay. Obviously,
Yeah.
it was part of the Dismiss into Dreams combo, but this
So, but this-
Soratami Cloud Chariot only targets your own creatures.
But this costs 3 less.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't do the second ability, but
Why would you do the second ability?
yeah.
I
so-
guess you know.
Ooh, now we're up to.
Ooh, this seems good. Iganjo Free Riders. Eiganjo. Iganjo Free Riders. 3 and a white for
Okay.
a 3/4 flying human soldier.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Sounds really good. At the beginning of your upkeep, return a white creature you control to its owner's hand.
Of course.
God
That's
dang
like,
it.
why? These are amazing.
I assume
3/4 flying for 4.
I assume there's some sort of ETB way to abuse that there's a creature that you want to be returning, I guess. Ugh.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this guy never.
Probably fine in the format of its day. I just don't know.
yeah,
I don't
mean,
know enough to
that's,
know if
that's
it's
when you
good
have
or
like a
not.
little 1-drop white guy that you just keep returning to your hand, I
Yeah.
guess.
Very
Yeah.
possibly.
Burning Eye Zubera. 2 red for a 3/3 Zubera Spirit. When Burning Eye Zubera is put into a graveyard from play, so when Burning Eye Zubera dies, if 4 or more damage was dealt to it this turn, you get a lightning bolt. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So
if you
when it dies,
so if it gets overkilled,
yeah, if
so if
you
you kill it with a 4,
well, this means they could basically never attack with a creature with 4 power
if you have this on the board.
because you could just block and lightning bolt it,
Yeah.
lightning bolt something else, bolt
Lightning-
their face.
Yeah, bolt their
Okay,
face if they don't have
so-
any valid targets.
Compared to Pitchburn Devils.
Which, when it
Yeah.
dies, deals
Yeah.
3 damage divided as you choose. Correct?
Yeah.
I would rather
No,
have the.
no, it's just 3 damage. Wait. Yeah, no, it's just 3 damage.
I'd rather have the Pitchburn Devils because you have to deal more than 4 damage or more to it. Makes this kind of irritating.
Pitchburn Devils is more expensive though. Pitchburn
Yeah.
Devils is a 5-drop. Now this has a double red casting cost, so this is cheaper but a more conditional. Like if they just if
Bolt this themselves.
if they just but if they just use like a destroy effect, then that's not gonna
Yeah.
trigger. Whereas the Pitchburn Devils will. You don't have the Pitchburn Devils on screen actually.
oh, whoops.
So I mean that's sort of a. I guess that's a trade-off. I mean, actually, this guy seems pretty even with the Pitchburn Devils, to be honest.
Of course,
Like-
Pitchburn's a common, and
That's true.
these guys are uncommon.
It's
so-
true, but I mean, you know,
Now, my only concern about getting this thing to cook off, is aside from the Kami of Empty Graves, we haven't seen anything that can actually do 4 damage.
that's true.
So-
Not to say that doesn't exist, but and you know he's a spirit, so you can soul shift for him.
That's true. I mean, okay, like at the end of the day, so it's a 3/3 for 4 with a marginal upside. Sometimes you just need a hill giant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Hill
you-
Giant seems fine.
You would
Yeah.
probably run them.
Oh yeah, big time. And so there's another mechanic that I forgot about from this block.
This is our rare.
Yeah,
running
that is
rare.
one of my favorite mechanics because it's so goofy.
Oh, this sounds like it'll be awesome.
All
Go
right.
on.
This is Eternal Dominion. It is a sorcery for 7 blue,
Oh, I
blue,
know this
blue.
mechanic.
Evil.
Search target opponent's library for an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card. Put that card into play under your control, then that player shuffles his or her library. With the ability Epic. For the rest of the game, you cannot play spells. At the beginning of each of your upkeeps, you copy this spell except for its epic ability. You may choose a new target for the copy.
So you start playing from their deck.
So this means you do this for 10 mana. You get whatever artifact, creature, enchantment, or land you want out of your opponent's deck. And then for the rest of the game, you can't do anything, but you do this every turn.
Well,
It
I
seems
guess
like
you
a
know
fun
you'll-
way to end a commander game.
I guess you'll be oppressive willing for one.
Yeah, well,
for
yeah,
a good
because
10 turns.
it's
Yeah.
interesting because you keep drawing, but you can't cast anything.
Mm-hmm. So, very interesting. So epic. They only printed 5. There's 1 epic card in each color, and that's all they've ever done with that mechanic. And they're all completely insane cards. Except what it is like you can't cast anything for the rest of the game, but cast this every turn. It's a very strange mechanic.
Have they ever actually been used in any kind of tournament setting?
I have no idea.
And it's pretty highly rated according to the community.
Yeah,
Well,
It's a powerful effect.
yeah.
But
I mean it's yeah. Like
Okay, let's say you're playing this in limited and you're at some sort of horrible grindy game. You know, like you're pretty evenly matched on the ground. And
it would
cast
have to be to
this.
get to 10 mana in
Well,
limited.
exactly.
In
But you
limited,
cast this
yeah.
and you pull the best card or removal or something out of your opponent's deck and do it. Like, that's going to be a pretty bad effect, right?
all right.
Yeah. You want to search by rules text if you want. It's the second from the top. If you're looking for the other epic cards.
Like, this would be
Yeah.
amazing in Commander, too.
It'd be pretty hilarious.
Because you just start pulling all the board wipers out of your opponent's decks.
Yeah, you could. Because I mean, the thing is, it's target opponent, right? So you can change who you're targeting every turn.
Exactly.
But then you're doing nothing for the rest of the game.
Well, you pull all the board wipers out of your opponent's deck, so they can't do anything, and then you start casting their best creatures. Like, that seems
All right,
fine.
here we go. Let's evaluate these
All right,
epic
I'm
cards.
I'm curious. So
So that's the blue one.
yeah,
Here's the green one. The green one is put a 1/1 snake creature token into play for each card in your hand.
That seems amazing, actually, because
Whoa.
you're going to start getting a lot of cards.
yeah.
Like, eventually,
so that
you're
could be
going to
very
be hitting 7 snakes a turn.
How many-
7, 8. Yeah, 7.
what's the mana cost on that one?
That one is 8. So that one's cheaper.
Wow.
Here's
Does James have that in his Snake Commander deck? Because he should.
and here's the white one for 7. Is search your library for an enchantment and put that into play.
Oh, that is awful.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That is
could be
terrible.
That would be really good in Theros.
Yeah.
But when you don't have enchantment, like all he has to do is kill all your creatures,
And you are effed.
and
That is
you're totally
terrible.
screwed. Yeah.
Well, there are things. The
there were a couple of flip cards. right?
the Hondens,
Right.
the enchantment shrines that
Yeah.
do things depending on how many Hondens you have.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were called the Hondens, and so within the realm of like Kamigawa constructed, there may have been something really busted to do with a bunch of enchantments, but that seems nowhere near as good as the green one.
No.
All right, let's look at the black one here. Never-ending torment.
I like the sound of that.
So that's
Does it kill X creatures?
search target player's library for X cards,
Okay.
where X is the number of cards in your hand.
Okay.
Okay, so 1 at first, and
And
then
Well, not
then-
necessarily one.
And then remove those from the game,
can I
Okay.
put them into play?
and that player shuffles his or her library.
I don't get to Okay, that's bad.
Well, you get to basically just grind their deck into tiny pieces.
You get to
Yeah, but it's
you
so
get to
slow.
you get to but
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're not just milling them every turn, you're selectively milling them every
Yeah.
turn.
So like so say when you cast this, you have like 2 or 3 cards in your hand. You get their best 2 or 3 cards. The next turn you get their best 4, and then their best 5.
So eventually they
and
have
then they
a,
can't do anything.
and then they
But
have a deck full of land.
At that point, you're really hoping that
Because
you at least have you have to be winning the game already.
Yes.
or
to
you
make
just
that
have
work
you have to
for
have some sort of massive meat shield at least.
Yeah.
Like that's the big problem with the epic stuff. The one like other than the Endless Swarm and the Eternal Dominion, these guys aren't actually helping you defend yourself while you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
All right,
All
let's
right.
look at the last one. Red one here. Undying Flames for 6.
Nice. Good casting cost.
Remove cards from the top of your library. Zoom zoom in on this. Exile cards to the top of your library until you exile a non-land card.
Okay.
Undying Flames does damage equal to, or did damage to target creature or player equal to that card's converted mana cost.
Ugh.
That's slow.
And then you could really whiff on that. You could, like, 1. Well, I'm glad I can't cast spells again for dealing 1 damage to you this turn. Or 1 damage to your
It's
bomb.
slow, but
Is this the set with top?
I could see this getting there.
Oh, yeah, actually.
I could see this getting there, you know?
I
Yeah.
don't like this.
Again, yeah,
Because you're going to deck yourself, too, right?
I don't think I can get behind any of the epic cards that don't put guys on the field.
Yeah, I feel like the green and the blue ones are the best.
Green and the blue
like,
ones.
Well, and
by
they're
far.
and you know what? They cost the most by far for a reason.
Probably why.
According to the reviews, the blue one's the best.
Yeah,
because
you get their biggest, scariest bomb.
Yeah, well,
and
I
you
mean,
get to keep it.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about their biggest, scariest bomb, you can also take enchantment artifacts or lands.
yeah,
So-
like a bribery every turn seems fine.
Yeah.
And like if you were in the right situation, that could certainly work for you.
Yeah.
Now, if you were playing Two-Headed Giant and you had somebody cast the green one and then you had somebody cast the blue one, you'd be in a good situation because you'd just be getting meat every turn and then their best thing,
That's awesome.
or meat buffers.
Well, this pack gave us a lot to talk about. This was really interesting. I
think
think I'm
but
probably,
also wasn't very good.
no, in the knowing nothing about the limited format of the day, I'm probably going to take the Burning Eyes Zubera. Just the
You know
hill
what?
giant.
Eternal Dominion. Throw in.
I would take the Promised Kanushi because I believe somewhere there's a card I want more than that, and it seems really good.
Oh man. All right. So, sorry. What do you want?
Yeah, I'd probably go for the Hill Giant to the
Yeah.
Burning Eyes Zubera. This is not the set with top, by the way.
Oh.
So,
But did you draft this set on its own?
no, you would have drafted all 3 of these together. You would have done
Oh, there'd be so many good spirits for the Promised Kanushi then.
champ. That's true because this at the time this would be the 3rd pack that you would look at
Yeah.
because the set was drafted champions, betrayers, saviors.
So you get if depending on what you picked, you could get your bomb from an earlier pack back. It's just like
Yeah.
bomb back.
Bomb back.
Well, what about, like Promise Kanushi could hit? Like Kokusho, they were all spirit dragons, right?
They were.
I think so. I think.
So that would be a huge pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, you finally get rid of Kokusho and you just take that. You're like, I deal with it fine, and then you like promise Kanushi it back. That's table flip.
I like it. So coming back to the
Dream big, Kathleen.
the modern limited format because we didn't actually talk about Theros at all last time.
Wait,
I say we. I wasn't here.
Before we do that, I have
What's
a very
up?
small thing I want to talk about.
Oh yeah.
All right, hold on. So
Oh, by the way, thank you, Narkuru, for the Kamigawa set.
it's super cool. So I got an email the other day from a guy named Ian who is new to Magic the Gathering. And because I love to play Dimir, he asked for my advice on how to build a standard Dimir mill deck, to which I said, I don't really do standard. I think there are some deck lists online. However, next time I record a Tap Concede, I will try to remember to mention it. Maybe we can crowdsource some answers. So basically, Ian's problem is this. He says, I've recently gotten to Magic, and I've been struggling to figure out how to make a good deck. I've been trying to use Dimir Mill, but it isn't that efficient, which is the problem. Mill is not efficient. I've been trying to get the people at my Magic Club to help, but they haven't been super helpful about this. And the decks that they've suggested haven't really been what he wants to do. So he wanted my help, and so I said I would poll us,
So I mean, I feel like
poll our community.
I don't want to be like that guy, you know, like the guy who like we have. I think we typically have Alex play that guy in Friday nights, and he's not actually like that in real life. But I don't know that standard mill is a thing that works really well.
Right. Well,
But I love the thought. So
And-
let's see.
yeah.
Let's see what we can do.
And the important, I think the real important thing is that Dimir in Ravnica, like the actual Dimir guild, is not very strong. So like you can build a Dimir deck in the sense of a blue-black deck, but don't restrict yourself to Dimir cards.
Yeah.
I don't think he means
Right.
like just the. I think he means blue-black.
Right.
Like Dimir
Right.
color.
But like your best mill cards are possibly not going to be coming from the Dimir stuff in Ravnica.
well, yeah. Like, is Traumatized in standard right now?
Yes.
Okay, well here.
So that seems like 2 of, 3 of. You want to hit that?
I mean, okay. If we're talking like money is no object here, I don't actually know how much he's going for right now, but Jace Memory Adept is probably going to be your best friend.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
his zero ability is just you mill 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was last season's Esper control deck. One of its win cons was Jace Memory Adept. Right? You just sandbagged and
Yeah, I mean,
Got
like
there.
Traumatize is the mill card, really.
the problem with Traumatize is that maybe you've already been milling them and Traumatize hits for like
6.
Well, if you're hitting for 6, then they only have 12 cards left in
Yeah.
their deck, and that's
you're
pretty
doing
good.
pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the problem with standard mill over limited mill is that in standard people have 60 cards in their deck, and that's a
lot.
That's a lot of cards to chunder through.
Here's the problem with winning with Mill. Sorry to cut you off, Cam. Winning with Mill is great because it makes you feel good because you're denying your opponent cards, and cards are what makes your deck go.
And it's an alternate win con, which I hold dear to my heart.
But the problem with it being an alternate win con is that milling them does not stop them from killing you, and it doesn't put any cards on the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you really need boots on the ground.
Yeah.
So
Like you might,
Because otherwise your life total
you
will
might wanna
hit
look-
0.
like you might want to look into like some nice big walls and so stuff to really slow the game down. Like
Well-
that's
Yeah.
the mill player has to go for the long game.
I'm assuming that Ian's Magic Club is not as competitive as like the Friday Night Magic is
I
here
don't
in
think
town.
so.
We have an especially affluent, competitive Friday Night Magic community here. So I'm assuming
Masters of
I'm
Waves.
assuming your Magic Club is maybe not that competitive. So, maybe you could be looking at stuff like, like Wall of Frost as like a good way to like stop some early aggressive beatdowns.
Yeah, and then
but
like
I
I
don't
think
know.
that
And
think
then-
even though they're aggressive cards or like they are designed for attacking, I think Consuming Aberrations are really good because if you are on this mill plan, then you're gonna start turning these Consuming Aberrations into huge walls of meat, which make themselves bigger when they land because they grind, and even if you don't attack with them, like even if you're just holding them back to make sure that they can't attack you, they're huge. And if your mill plan doesn't work and you have like 3 Consuming Aberrations, they're all 12/12. I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, Consuming Aberration seems like one of the cards. Jace Memory Adept. The Dimir colored Planeswalker who mills
Oh, Ashiok.
Ashiok.
Yeah, Ashiok would probably be pretty good.
Because
What about the Dimir? I mean, there's the actual Dimir guild leader, the grindy guy.
Oh, Murko.
Murko,
Yeah,
Murko is good because he flies too.
And he grinds for 4.
Yeah, he grinds for a lot.
I mean,
And if you have Consuming Aberrations, the problem is all these cards are, with the exception of Ashiok, we're all talking like 5 drops.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, early game you could be landing the 1/3 Scry 2. What's her name?
the
Oracle.
the Omen Speaker.
Yeah,
Yes,
the Omen
that's
it.
Speaker.
Like, and I want to say, like we just to make it clear again, we do say that we are a casual Magic podcast. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some folks who are really into standard who are thinking, like Consuming Aberration, Murko, and a standard deck. It's like, well, we're also building a standard mill deck, right? It's not
Yeah.
going to be, you're never going to see it at the Pro Tour in the current standard. I just don't think there is a top tier
It's
Yeah.
mill deck in the current standard.
Like,
so
what will happen is you'll resolve
let's have some
Murko.
fun with it, is
Your
what I'm
opponent
saying.
will pick it up, look at it, and go, okay, well, hero's downfall.
yeah.
It's
And-
like the
Like,
yeah. I mean, mill in limited, those extra 20 cards between limited and standard make such a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, mill is tough even in limited.
My favorite was the time we did a 4 booster. I think it was M13. We did a 4 booster sealed on the stream, meaning people are running a 30 card deck, and we were like, and Jace,
Yeah.
because 30 card deck. So you draw your opening hand. You've only got 23 cards left in there.
So
Right.
you've gone through a third of your deck just by drawing your opening hand.
Yeah, and then by the
basically.
time you get to turn 5, you've got like then 18 or 19 cards left in your opponent's deck, and you're like, Jace, mill you, pass the turn, deal with Jace now or you're dead.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's like that was horrifying, but in standard is a little bit more difficult.
Anyhow, we're gonna.
and another thing, the problem with Jace Memory Adept and Ashiok is they don't protect themselves
Yeah.
at all, which is one of the big abilities that you want in a Planeswalker.
Yeah, people talk about that a lot. I think we should just mention it real quick. When people talk about a planeswalker protecting themselves, what they mean is like if you don't have creatures in play and you play Ashiok or you play Jace, there's nothing that they do that stops your opponent from just attacking it next turn. You look at the new Elspeth, and her plus ability puts creatures on the board, right?
Or Architect of Thought, yeah.
Yeah, and Jace Architect of Thought also protects himself very effectively.
Jace Architect of Thought, his plus ability, if you want to bring that one up on screen, his plus ability is until your next turn, whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks, it gets -1/-0, so you take a little bit less damage. Whereas Jace Memory Adept and Ashiok, they don't do anything to affect the board, they don't do anything to prevent them from just being killed. You know, like if you play Jace and your opponent has a creature with 4 power, then
You're going to get them for 10 and then he's dead.
Yeah,
you get 1 activation and he dies.
Unless you have something else to put in front of it, like a big, meaty consuming aberration.
Sometimes Jace Memory Adept is just 5 mana, gain 4 life, they mill 10.
Which I mean is not the worst if you're on that plan, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially if you have another Jace.
And I guess mill is a bit safer now that there's less flashback, or there's no flashback, and
Yeah, the like graveyard matter stuff is less of a big deal.
and you aren't looking at Unburial Rights.
Right? Yeah, Burial Rice is gone now.
Because milling Unburial Rights is just the worst thing.
Is there any standard reanimator currently?
Yeah, there's Journey to the Underworld.
Right. Okay.
And there's all
but
the
that's not nearly as
and there's all the like
efficient.
Gogari stuff, right? That uses the
Yeah.
graveyard, but it's nowhere near as scary.
Yeah, it used to be really quite scary to mill your opponent because of flashback cards, and especially if they had Unburial Rights. Like that was a really bad matchup against the Junk Rights.
Yeah,
deck.
Junk Rights.
Yeah,
you would just be like,
Milling,
all right, mill off Angel of Oblivion and Unburial Rights
And Scoop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like self mill was actually a big thing in this
like
strat,
the self mill
Yeah,
thing
people
was a
always
really good plan with the deck Solar Flare.
Well,
right?
yeah, and
And
Thought
Junk
Scour.
Rights.
People put Thought Scour on themselves, not on their opponents for the most part.
Yeah.
It was like, get that shit in my bin.
Which is different, by the way, from Tome Scour, which is not the sort of thing you want to be playing.
No, don't play that.
Yeah, don't play things like Tome Scour or
There were
What's that thing that mills 7 for 2 mana? Don't play that.
Jace's Erasure.
Don't play
Now
that.
there was in M13 there was a mill deck that you could do pretty reasonably if you got the cards, which was like Jace's Erasure and Archaeomancer. And you could be like mill 7, Archaeomancer back, mill another 7, you pick up all the erasures, you just like mill them a whole bunch. It was not I wouldn't recommend it as one of the best limited decks ever, but it could get there.
It was a hair-raising experience.
Outside chance, yeah.
I don't know if I would play Jace's Erasure in a standard deck, just because you're paying 2 mana to literally. I mean, yeah, they're
Also,
milling
it's not
7, which
currently legal in standard.
Oh, I thought they reprinted it. In
Nope,
M14.
they reprinted Tome Scour.
Would you want to play counters like the
Probably.
I think
like
you'd
the
have
3
to.
mana counter?
Dissolve?
Not dissolve. 1 blue black counter target spell.
Oh, Psychic Strike.
Yeah,
That could mill too.
Absolutely.
That could be good. Yeah. If we're talking,
Put that in instead of dissolve.
Yeah, if we're talking like a fun casual mill deck, I think Psychic Strike is perfect.
Well, I mean,
the
fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard
So would you
counters
look
are
at-
fun.
Would you look at an
Fun.
Esper Control shell and take out things like dissolve and put in Psychic Strike? Take out things like Read the Bones, put in the Dimir colored Divination that also mills too.
Oh, dark. What is that?
Like replace Aetherling with Consuming Aberration.
Yeah. This sounds good. I like that.
Like take out the white entirely.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Like the Diet Coke of Esper Control.
Yeah,
Is that
I think that's probably your best bet in the current.
Yeah, I think you definitely want a control framework because, like, if you want to go in on the mill plan, you need to cast big things that will mill them, like Jace and that Consuming Aberration and Murko and stuff. And you need to stay alive until you can start putting these 5-drops out. And if your opponent is building up their board while you're not doing much of anything, you will not be alive to cast things on turn 5
and
and
also
6.
you do have good options that are just Doomblade gets in. Hero's Downfall probably gets in.
Oh yeah.
On double black. You have good control cards.
I mean, it's really expensive, but Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize.
Oh, yeah. Just take it right out of their
It's-
hand.
It's just important to remember that when you're milling, until you mill off that last card,
You're not doing anything.
milling hasn't actually helped you at all.
Yeah. So, like the thought here, maybe you're milling not to win with mill as a win condition. It's a a secondary condition, maybe you just want to be swinging in with aberrations.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And then-
they're
and then
at
if-
least
if
they're
then-
they're immune to Doomblade.
Oh, yeah.
and it makes it, and you're sort of, it gives you inevitability, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
if somehow he, if he stops your stuff and locks the board down, you can still mill him out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if he's endlessly chump blocking, because the
Yeah.
aberrations don't have trample, right?
So
So I don't know if that was remotely helpful, Ian.
yeah, like take out Jace, Architect of Thought, put in Memory Adept.
Yeah.
But hey, if you have worked out, if you have already cracked this standard Demir Mill deck problem, and you're like, I have this deck, I made this deck, this is what's in it, I would love to hear about it. Put it in the comments on the Loading Ready Run forum for this episode. And Ian, I'm assuming you will listen to this. Please check out our forum. It's at loadingreadyrun.com. And hopefully somebody else might have solved your problem. But if not, I think we might have helped.
Oh, one other thing. With the Scry, with Scry being back, there's a chance you might get extra mileage off your mill.
Yeah.
Because Scry is basically a dead mechanic against something that's milling.
Yeah, if they're like,
To
if
illustrate. they
cast something with Scry and they would like, all right, and they put the card on top, and then you mill that. Whoopsies.
Yeah.
That actually becomes quite interesting. Yeah.
It does.
That
Yeah,
goes right
that-
into feels bad man territory.
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And then, so then very briefly, we were just going to talk about,
Segueing nicely, because we started talking about Scry.
talking about Theros Limited, which is turning out to be a little bit faster than people thought. I know that no one thought it would be as slow as M14, but I remember leading up, it was going to be a slow format. Well, the other day I lost in the finals of an 8-4 because my opponent went turn 1 favored Hoplite, turn 2 Ordeal of Nylea, and then so they're attacking on turn 2 for 3 damage, and then on turn 3 for 4 damage, and then I'm pretty much dead at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Well,
it's tough to recover from that.
yeah. the
When you're
turn
like
one-
down 11.
The turn 1 favored Hoplite, turn 2 Ordeal,
Oh, you
turn 3 Ordeal.
feel miserable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, okay. I find that Theros is either real fast or real slow. Right? Like, there doesn't seem to be a lot of in-between games.
I've seen some real slow games.
Like, they'll either just, like, drag because it's, a huge slugging match where people are going back and forth and gaining life and all of that stuff because they're, they're getting the 10 life off that white ordeal. Or it's just like, bam, 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 heroic.
It's interesting because you can get demolished by the fast heroic deck, like the Boros one or the Azorius colored one. Like you can get wrecked by that. You can wreck with it like real quick. But it's not difficult for you to be like, all right, look at this opening hand. This is so fast. All right, do this.
And then you
then
just plow into
you
a
just-
wall of meat.
You just like you grind them down to like 9 life, and then you're like, I'm doing really well, and then they just stabilize. Like I can't think of the specific cards offhand, but then you're like, oh, now I have no good attacks, and I've only got 1 card in hand.
And because they've finally got their Nessie Nasp down.
Ugh.
I'm like, or like that 2/5 Gorgon, and you're like, I literally can only suicide my guys in here. I can't even trade.
Yeah.
And then you just are stuck, which happened to me at the pre-release.
Yeah, the Gorgon feels so bad.
Yeah, Keepsake Gorgon is very strong. Keepsake Gorgon is pretty critical to protecting this. Anyone who's interested in like how am I going to fight the quick deck? A couple episodes ago of Limited Resources, Marshall and Brian did a great episode called How to Draft a Control Deck, and specifically looking at control decks in Theros. And Gorgon very, very high on that list of necessities because you want it's the interesting thing. One of the things I took away from it was looking at creatures that block well. And by a creature that blocks well, they do not mean something like the Guardians of Meletis, which is just like a giant 06 wall.
But blocks by getting ahead.
Blocks like a creature that blocks well in that because they have no problem if they have a couple guys, they can just if you have a Guardians and they have a bunch of 2/2s, they'll just attack because the Guardians aren't going to kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have a 2/4, right, something with actual power like a Grey Merchant or even a Return Centaur,
then they can't attack.
Suddenly they can't attack because you can actually kill their guy. That's a creature that blocks well, right? It's this little sort of
I just like
difference between just being a wall and a creature that actually prevents them from attacking.
Well, I mean, there's going into a wall and there's going into a wall of meat.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
like that the Gorgon is a 2/5,
Yeah.
when being a 1/5 would make them do exactly the same thing. Like the extra power doesn't change what it does at all.
Well,
'Cause it has
but
death touch, right?
but it's just like a little extra. It's like,
However,
But if you're attacking with her.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they
If
double
you're-
block.
if you're attacking or they double block or something like that, it can make a difference.
Yeah.
But it's just like this little insult to injury that it's a 2/5 instead of a 1/5.
we had
Well, even a Master of Waves can block reasonably well, right?
The
Or
two-
not a Master of
Wave
Waves.
Crash Triton.
Wave Crash Triton. Yeah,
Yeah,
1/4 can be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
if you've got like there's a lot of things with 1 toughness.
like an arena
Well,
athlete or something.
Also,
Yeah.
things with 2 toughness, because there's so many combat tricks in this format. I don't know if you've noticed this.
Yeah. I
Or
don't know
not.
if you realize, but there's like a near infinite number of combat tricks.
Yeah, like that Battle-Wise trick.
Oh, Battle-Wise Valor? Does
Yeah.
+2/+2 and scry?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So, yeah, I'm not saying anything that you haven't already heard, but
oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah.
Okay,
it
hold
turns
on.
out Theros
hold on.
can be quite quick. What's
Attack
up?
with a keepsake Gorgon, and they're like, "Well, fuck you. I'm gonna fucking like, God, triple block this stupid fucking thing, or
Whoa.
quadruple block this stupid thing."
Triple F-bomb there also.
And then screw you and your damn Gorgon. You can't monsterify it, and because you don't have the monsterify mana up, but then you do a Battle-Wise Valor on it, and you're like, "You're dead. You're dead. You're dead." And then it's like,
Well, that's why
that's my dream now. I want that to happen.
on our live
That would
draft,
take me to my happy place.
on our live draft the other day, I was talking about the glory of trample and death touch, right? Which is so if someone double blocks a creature with trample, the way that damage has to be assigned is that you have to deal damage to the creatures before you can deal damage to the player, but you have to deal lethal damage to each of those creatures. So if you have, as we did, a 7/7 Polis Crusher that was being double blocked by a creature with 3 toughness and a creature with 4 toughness, right? We have to deal 4 damage to the creature with 4 toughness, and then 3 damage to the creature with 3 toughness.
And there's no damage
and
left over for the player.
Exactly. But because we had a Bow of Nylea, which gives all of our attacking creatures death touch, it means we can do 1 damage to one creature and 1 damage to another creature, and the other 5 damage tramples over. It was delightful. Felt good.
Feels good, man.
What's
Yeah.
it like to draft 2 bombs?
It was pretty good, actually. I think that was actually our 4 booster sealed.
Ooh.
Yeah, which was that was pretty good. It was like, well, I guess we're in red green. It also happened that all of our others, like our other color support, was garbage. Please do go and check out the replay on twitch.tv/LoadingReadyRun if you're curious. We didn't actually do that well that day because we decided to double queue that against an 8-4, and it was a disaster.
Oh.
It was an absolute disaster, but it was fun. I'm trying to think of other experiences I've had recently.
What's your opinion of the sort of Voltron, sort of lay it all on the line on one creature technique in Theros?
I mean, it works. That's the thing. Like, unless they have like a sip of hemlock, it.
Yeah, you're pretty safe until they get up to like 6 mana and double black.
I gotta tell
Right?
you, more than once, I have had a Sedge Scorpion with 2 creatures bestowed on it,
And they're
just
just
had like, it's like, oh, I have a 5/5 Vigilance First Strike Death Touch creature. How you like me now? And it's like,
and it's like, and if you kill it, you'll still end up with 2 creatures.
I'll still have a 2/2 First Strike and a 2/2 Vigilance, which is not the best, but it's like.
Hey, at least they're untapped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like, I'm just going to attack with this 5/5 every turn. Can you block it? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Did I
that seems very good.
Did I mention how good First Strike and Death Touch is?
Yeah, some of those bestow cards are off the hook if
Yeah,
you
I
bestow
mean,
them.
Yeah, like
you get
Spear Point Oread.
you end up with the things that
So good.
that they would never actually put on one card, like First Strike, Death Touch, Trample, or something silly.
I mean,
like
when
that.
we were doing
Build your own bomb.
when we
Yeah.
did that, there's all sorts of jokes about like build your own Baneslayer, and like
Right.
Baneslayer Angel and stuff like that. And we did our MTGO Academy draft where we just picked all the shiny cards, right? All the cards with the Power of the Gods border, right? And so we picked like a bunch of different bestow creatures. We were in 3 different colors, and we won many games with a Wave Crash Triton and 3 creatures bestowed on it. Right, and it's like a flying 5/9 with First Strike, and unless your opponent can deal with it, like they need to either interrupt it early, and it's really tough with a Wave Crash Triton because it already has 4 toughness. So after the first bestow, it's already out of Lash of the Whip territory. Like it starts out of range of Lightning Strike and most direct damage. And after the first bestow, you can't use Rage of Perforos, you can't use Lash of the Whip. You need to like use more than one spell.
You need to sip it,
yeah,
which you might not even have access to.
And by targeting it with the bestow, you're tapping one of their creatures down because it's a Wave Crash Triton. I love bestowing on Wave Crash Triton, by the way. Then it just gets harder and harder to deal with. And there's like Hero's Downfall, which is rare, or Sip of Hemlock. And it's weak to like Voyage's End, because you can like Voyage's End or Griptide. Like blue has good ways to deal with it, to like bounce it back to your hand or to the top of your deck. But then you do get all the bestow creatures fall off, and then you have this little army. But man, I love the Voltron thing. Like, it sucks when I'm on the other end of it, obviously, but I think that's...
Yeah,
well,
I think it's fun.
I mean, obviously, it's a... Oh, sorry, Cam.
No, go ahead.
I said, obviously, it's not a plan with no drawbacks.
It's just...
But it's still very powerful.
It's so refreshing, I guess, to be playing in a format where something like that is even possible, like where the removal is so...
Is bad.
Yeah, it is so sort of few and far between that, and because of the whole bestow thing that they can drop off and all this stuff, that there is this thing, like it used to be that it's basically like an enchantment had to be bonkers before it would even be like considered to be playable.
Is it Angel Suit?
Yeah,
then it's too easy to get yourself
and so
two for one.
The idea that it's very it's funny because it's a way like when I was a kid playing Magic, that's like kind of what you would want to do, right? You would be like, haha, I'm gonna make this guy really big, right? And then you find out that's a terrible strategy.
Yeah, then one of your friends opens Terror in their weekly pack.
Yeah,
right.
And then but now we're sort of back into the thing. It's like it's cool that it's sort of encouraging you to do kind of the fun thing.
And it's I mean, obviously it sucks to lose to, anything like that does, but it's a lot of fun if you're on the other side of it for that reason. You're like, look at this thing that I've built and it's attacking you. And I think it's all fair. Like, I think all the bestow stuff is fairly costed. I think that the drawback is very real because, like, a 5/5 first strike Death Touch Vigilance is way better than having 2/2/2s with some of those abilities, right? Like, even though the guys fall off and you get the bestow creatures afterwards, they're pretty crappy creatures on their own, right? And like, I think the costs are fair. I think the drawbacks are fair, and I think the effort to get to the point of having the Voltron, I think, is fair, and I like it a lot. Yeah. I think I'm enjoying this limited format much more than certainly more than Dragon's Maze. Probably more than Return to Ravnica. Gatecrash was a lot of fun, but I don't know where I fall on that, but I'm enjoying this format a lot.
Theros, surprisingly deep limited format.
Yeah.
And even though the removal is not so good in Theros, enchantment removal
is pretty good.
Is pretty good.
Yeah.
And so that can be a little surprising when you go in and attack with your Voltron and suddenly his pants fall off.
Well, part of his pants fall off.
Napoleon's buttons.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of...
also, it's so good fliverfully. Like, these things are actually being blessed by the gods.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Speaking of
like I thought of this or something.
Speaking of good card nicknames, because we were mentioning it, we were mentioning the GTA earlier. I've heard the Bow of Nylea being called Umezawa's bow. Because it does 4 different things. 5 if you remember the Death Touch.
Right. In a lot of ways, it does seem like a kind of a fixed GTA.
It does a lot of similar effects, yeah, I must say.
A GTA that isn't completely obscene.
Yeah. So... I think we can wrap it up there. I know we get deep into the Theros limited discussion, but boy, do we have a lot of other stuff to talk
we
about.
We have more weeks of Theros.
Oh yeah,
I really want to go draft Theros now.
Yeah, me too.
Want to go get like draft set?
Yeah, we should do that. We should do so, or at least online.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. We have, of course, Desert Bus coming up. By the time you're hearing this, probably in mere days. So
there are so many good Magic prizes.
Oh my goodness! If you're unfamiliar at all with Desert Bus, please come to desertbus.org and check out what it is that we do. We do this massive fundraiser every year for Child's Play, and we have many amazing Magic prizes that we auction off and give away.
We have. Can we talk about our history of some of the prizes that we've...
Oh, yeah.
In the past, we have auctioned off mini full uncut foil sheets.
Yep. And we have that again. We have a common, uncommon, and rare full uncut sheet of M14. And we have 2 sheets of commons.
Ooh.
We have a full set of M14 in foil, like the complete set.
Ooh.
We have, I believe, we have a commander's arsenal. We even have a set of the, and I want this, like, there's a void in my soul that only this can fill. The black on black Comic-Con planeswalkers.
Oh.
Yeah, that sold out like immediately.
Oh, this is the last 5 that didn't get bought by Card Kingdom
Or something. I don't know. Like, yeah.
or Star City Games.
Yeah, I
sorry.
think that they sell for like, I don't know what they sell for on eBay, but anyway, we have a set of those. We've got some really unique other Magic stuff. We've got like that famous misprint Sarah Angel with the Time Elemental art.
Oh,
on it.
right.
Yeah, we're gonna have like some sort of like pack of crazy weird Magic stuff that we've accumulated through our various contacts with Wizards of the Coast and
Donations and stuff.
awesome game stores that we know. And stuff
I don't know
like
if we've in the past we've had Mark Rosewater and Aaron Forsyth call in on different years. I don't know if we have anyone from Magic. We had last year we had Mike and Tifa from Wizards call in, and I don't know if we have anyone from Wizards on the docket this year to call in, but hopefully. And anyway, the point is we have some amazing Magic prizes that you could very, very feasibly win yourself. Last year we did didn't we just do like a $5 donation drive?
Yeah, for the sheets,
right?
For
And
at
so
least
it's
one of
like,
them, yeah.
so if you it's like if you donate $5, you could win a sheet and like an uncut foil sheet of commons that it's not something you can buy anywhere, right? So please do come to desertbus.org and check that out and watch us all next week. We'll be streaming for probably like 6 days.
And yeah, to that end,
There will not be a tap concede next
no.
week.
Or probably the week after.
Probably not the week after.
But you'll be
either.
able to ask us any questions about Magic in the chat if you watch.
Yeah.
So hey, there you go.
Yeah, you could get a sleep-deprived 5 a.m. tap concede.
Yeah.
Called Tap Tap Ma.
Let me tell you about Keepsake Gorgon, okay? Look, shut up. Listen.
Okay.
Hang on.
Is she quapping?
All right.
So,
So
anyhow,
thank you.
Desert Bus.
Thank you for listening. Do check out desertbus.org, and we will talk to you on Tap Concede next time. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
wop wop.